Welcome to Stuff and Whiskey. I'm Erin.
I'm Josh. Welcome to the lounge. Thanks so much for joining us. We love to sit here, sip whiskey with friends. That's what we're here to do.
Yep.
We also love having conversations, and that's what we're going to be doing today, having a little conversation, maybe having a little pour, and talking about the best advice that we can give you after 4 years of having a WhiskeyTube channel.
Yep.
All the things we've learned, how our opinions on whiskey have maybe changed, how that might be relevant to you and what it could inform for you, or at least the conversations that could start down in the comments below. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
While we get into this, I should say that you're seeing this, if you're watching it on the day it releases, April 29th, literally exactly 4 years ago, our first actual video came out on the channel.
Yeah.
Technically, April 22nd, we had a bloopers video, which is the first true video on our channel.
That was like a prequel.
Yeah, it was not a whiskey video.
Yeah.
Our first real whiskey video was April 29th. So here we are 4 years later.
Yep.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
I'm going to get us something poured.
Yes.
And I thought,
what are we drinking?
for the occasion, I thought 4 years feels like a triumph. So we're going to pour a little bit of Wild Turkey Master's Keep Triumph.
And if I remember correctly, I like this.
We do like this, but
Okay.
it's going to play into some of the conversations that we have
Oh, okay.
today as
Okay.
well. Some of the talking points that we have. We're going to talk about our biggest surprise over the last 4 years. We're going to talk about price. We're going to talk about availability and allocations. We're also going to talk about how we feel about quality and value and how that might have changed
One
over
thing
time.
I haven't learned in 4 years is how to swirl a whiskey glass.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it.
Will you
and
try it?
honestly, I don't particularly care.
You're going clockwise. Have you tried counterclockwise? Little wrist action counterclockwise? Okay, that's definitely not getting better.
I'm not moving my wrist. I was moving my elbow.
You can just circular motion it. All right.
It's fine.
Cheers to 4 years. Cheers to you guys for being
Cheers.
here. And then tell us what your biggest surprise is.
Oh, that's tasty. Okay. So my biggest surprise, honestly, is that there's a whole community of people around whiskey. Did not know that. When we started this channel, I drank whiskey. I still drink whiskey, but I didn't know anything really about it. Still don't really know much about it. But I had no idea there was a community of people around it that really, over the last 4 years, have become some of our closest friends.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
such a generous community. And that's kind of what's keeping me going, just because I love hanging out with everyone in the whiskey community. And I've never had hobbies where I've had that community. I think that's something you have always sought out. But like I tend to do solo hobbies, and there are communities around those, but I just don't put the effort to get involved. And so that's on me. But this community is the greatest.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now, I would agree. I mean, I do gravitate towards hobbies that have these kind of niche subculture communities
Yeah.
around them, dating all the way back to skateboarding in my early teens,
Yeah.
and then cars and car stereos and racing and all kinds of stuff in my late teens to early 20s.
Yeah.
All the way up to, all kinds of sneakers, golf, it's its own thing. There's communities around all of these different subcultures, and I love all of them.
I didn't know.
I knew it existed in whiskey because I watched other WhiskeyTube channels.
Okay.
I didn't know it existed to the scale that it does, I guess. Or
Yeah.
I think maybe I just underestimated, which sounds kind of bad to say, but I think I underestimated how meaningful the community would be for me.
Yeah, same. Exactly the same.
It's amazing. I mean, I've said it before. I'm sure our Patreons are tired of hearing me say this, but it's like Cheers. You want to go where everybody knows your name. And that's very much what our Patreon community and the comment section, to see all the names that are in there all the time commenting on our videos.
Yeah.
It means a whole lot to us, and we just love it. So that's definitely been the biggest surprise. I remember when we started our Patreon, I was thinking I was going to do some hunting for people on there and getting stuff for cost plus shipping, and I was going to be sending samples out. What I found was that most people in our Patreon community are either far better hunters or have far better whiskey collections than we do. And they just want to support us. They want to be part of the community. And they want to see our reactions to some of the pours that they think are good.
The generosity of the people in the whiskey community is unmatched, I think.
Well, I mean, look at the stats. We're 4 years into doing this channel, which means we've had three to this point, three charity fundraisers for mental health, and the community collective effort together has raised over $70,000. That's
pretty awesome.
For a whiskey. We were drinking whiskey on the internet.
Yeah.
We raised over $70,000 for charity.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
So yeah, that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
There's no like hiding that. That's like my biggest surprise, and happily so.
So let's get into price, availability and allocations, quality and value, and then maybe how the 4 years might have informed your purchasing habits. Were you the whiskey shopper of the family?
I mean...
So let's start with price.
Okay.
How do you feel about price over the last 4 years? Has your opinion changed?
I think because I've become more accustomed to the whiskey market and pricing within that market, I have found myself being willing to spend more on whiskey in general, as a whole. I'm still, compared to you, I'm still the frugal one of the two of us. And I'm less easily talked into buying something that's expensive, but my threshold for what's expensive has kind of gotten raised.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think for me, my opinion on price, overall, like as a whiskey nerd who loves the community and loves the hobby and loves the space, I think pricing in general has elevated like everything else.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has gotten out of control, especially with things like this is a $275 special release. And it's really good. And we'll get into this when we talk about allocations and value too. But I think $275 is good, you know?
Yeah.
So what are you paying for with that? We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But just overall price, yes, has gotten more expensive. I don't like that. I still feel, because we're more sippers than drinkers, you know, that's another thing we found, that there's drinkers out there that they like inexpensive stuff that they can put in cocktails and they go through a lot more. We don't drink very much. We actually just taste and sip periodically. And so our whiskey goes a lot further. I've always been willing to pay more for those good sipping experiences.
Yeah.
I'm just buying less of the expensive bottles because I've come to realize, as we'll get into, the quality's not always there. So I don't think I've really changed all that much, other than maybe like my absolute max, what I'm willing to pay. Before the channel, I probably would have said $300.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Both of our thresholds, I think, have been raised.
All right. Let's get into availability and allocations.
Okay.
Availability was down. Allocations and special releases were way up.
Okay.
Things have recently started swinging back the other directions, where some of the allocated stuff is becoming more available. It's sitting a little bit longer. But as far as availability versus allocations go, how do you feel?
So I think we've tasted enough whiskey over the 4 years to know that just because it's allocated doesn't necessarily mean it's good. So if I haven't tried it before, I don't particularly care if it's allocated or not allocated. I'm not going to really spend my money unless I've tried it before. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree. I think just because it's allocated doesn't mean it's any better than anything that's available. And for your palate, there may be available products that are better than the allocated products. Just because something is allocated is not a marker of quality.
I have a caveat to what I said.
Yep.
In particular with single barrels, obviously I can't try single barrel, but if I've tried that line of products before and they're single barrel products before and I generally like them for the most part, I will try like a single barrel. Obviously I've never tried before, but it's because of the past performance of other single barrels from that line inform my future purchasing decisions.
Past performance
is indicative of future performance.
Okay. So I think that's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah.
It's been a very informative process, and our head-to-heads, if you go back in the channel history and you look at our Thursday head-to-head matchups, you know, we have a 4-year catalog of different head-to-head matchups where you can see it play out when we don't know we're drinking things blind.
Yep.
You know, or we know we're drinking things blind. We just don't know what's in either glass. We're completely double blind. And you see it play out all the time where the available product is every bit as good as the allocated product. Now, sometimes that's not true, but I think my perception before starting the channel and really getting nerdy about whiskey even prior to that was that the allocated stuff was at least a little bit better, if not a lot better.
Right.
And I thought almost unilaterally that would be true. What I've come to realize is there's a very niche segment of products that are markedly better than shelf available products, but probably 80% of allocated products are just not.
Yeah.
They're just different. They're not special.
So
though.
your perspective of allocated products has probably, in my mind, become more realistic to what they actually are.
Yeah.
Some of them are good. Some of them are great.
Right.
Some of them are just okay.
Right. Because we've been able to try so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like anything else. Like, there's probably 20% that are below average and not nearly as good as you would think they were. There's probably 20% that are way above average for your palate and just are amazing and going to be amazing for you. And then there's that 60% in the middle, and it's just good whiskey.
Yeah.
But there's good whiskey on the shelf as well.
Yep.
And that's going back to the price thing.
Yeah.
That 20% that's better than average, those are the ones that I have become willing to pay for, and we've been able to try so much.
Yeah.
I know what those are now, and I kind of key in on those.
Right.
But let's move on to value and quality.
Okay.
And like how those juxtapose. Like, when we started this channel, how did you feel about value in whiskey? How did you feel about the quality of whiskey? And has that changed for you?
I didn't know. I don't know if I even knew what quality whiskey was.
But you knew what you liked.
I knew what I liked, but I didn't even think about quality, to be honest.
Okay.
That wasn't ever a factor in my mind prior to this channel.
Just whether you liked it or not.
Just whether I liked it or not. And
which is very valid even still.
Yeah, for the most part, that is kind of my general sentiment still. I do place a little bit higher price tag, so just pun intended, on value now that I know some of the pricing in the market. But still, like, if it tastes good, I could make a case for value almost any which way. So
yeah, you've loosened up a little bit.
I've loosened up a little bit I've loosened the purse strings a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say for me, when we first started this channel, I thought, this is a little bit of like, what do you wish you knew before, and I think what I wish I would have known before is that quality it's not real.
It's subjective.
It's so subjective.
It's so subjective.
It's matters of taste, and I think that way in terms of other things, like, this restaurant's really good, but you may or may not like it. Oh, this whatever cocktail's really good, but you may or may not like it.
Right.
For some reason, I just thought whiskey was a little bit more definitive than that. It's a beverage. It's all down to taste.
Yep.
So you can't
Personal preferences.
you can't assign a quality metric to something without knowing what else someone else likes, and which is hopefully the service that we bring. If for nothing else, like, we're not experts, we're just regular people with regular lives, and we do this for fun. We hope that the catalog of back videos can, if you're watching them and paying attention and getting to know our palates and what we like, then if we do say that we like something, like we say we like the taste of this, but we don't like the price tag of this at $275, then you can say, well, you can decide what money means to you and whether you would be willing to pay $275 or not. But if our palate aligns and you think, oh yeah, $275 is not a big deal to me, and I would like this bottle, and they're saying they like the way it tastes, then I can at least be comfortable buying it based on my own budget preferences. You
can make an informed decision if you know what our palates are like and if you align with our palates. Or if you differ from our palates, you could know maybe you won't like that.
So when we met, it was years before we ever started this channel.
Yep.
You had Bullet Rye on your shelf.
Yep.
You had Jameson. You
Yep.
had Michter's
Yep.
Rye.
Yep.
And maybe like a Tennessee Fire that your boss gave you for a gift or something.
I think it was a Jack Honey.
Something like that.
That I got as a Christmas gift from my office.
But you bought very few bottles. How would you feel like if you were buying whiskey these days? She doesn't, because I'm the whiskey shopper in the house.
Yep.
She doesn't have to. Bottles just show up.
I just reap the benefits of his buying habits.
But if you were buying now based on all the knowledge of 4 years of whiskey tasting that we've done on this channel, would your habits change? Would your buying habits change?
No. I would probably have
just a few things on the shelf.
Just a few things on the shelf still. Probably some more expensive things on the shelf, if I'm being honest. More expensive things than what I had. So I would still keep the Bullet Rye. That is like a go-to. That's my panic pour if I'm out at a bar or a restaurant and they're like, what do you want? I'm like, and most places always have Bullet Rye. So that's like my mashed potatoes. That's a comfort to me. So I'll Bullet Rye. I'd probably upgrade the Michter's Rye to a Michter's Toasted Rye.
Yeah.
You
have to pay a little for
we're
that.
Talking in a perfect world here.
Yeah.
This is my ideal scenario. And then I would not have Jameson. I would probably have, what's that Indian single malt? I can never remember the name of it.
Amroot.
Amroot.
Yeah.
I would probably have Amroot on there instead of Irish. And then I would have a Wild Turkey rare breed bourbon.
There you go.
And that's probably it.
Yeah.
And then maybe every so often I'd sprinkle in a few like Hard Truth High Road Rye. I'd probably have a bottle of that from time to time. Like
a little Ardbeg Oudel.
A little Ardbeg.
A little smoky something.
A little smoky. Like, so maybe like a handful, less than 10 feels really good to me.
Yeah.
And I would just mix and match and I'd be fine.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, for me, my habits before we started this channel were that I would go to my local store. I knew their pallets. I knew the people picking the barrels. And I would just buy their single barrel picks. And that, to me, is what mattered the most. That was the most fun that I had in whiskey. And then I would opportunistically buy allocated bottles if I got my hands on them and then put them into blind tastings. So it's basically, this channel is just an extension of how I behaved as a hobbyist beforehand.
Basically.
And us hanging out and trying whiskey together. So for me, I'd still buy single barrels. We're doing our own picks now. So if you're interested in that, you can find that in our Patreon. It's linked in the video description below or the pinned comment. It's where we go to distilleries, taste a bunch of barrels, choose the ones that fit with our palates. And we're always using the metric of that little 20% of the allocated special stuff that separates itself from the shelf bottles. There's a little bit of je ne sais quoi in those. I actually don't know what that means. There's a little bit of specialness in there, an it factor, and we try to capture an element of that it factor in all of our barrel picks if we can. And if we can't, we don't pick it. So that's what we're shooting for. If that sounds interesting to you, think about joining our Patreon. Also, speaking of community, our Patreon is how you get to our Discord, which is our online home. So if you're someone out there that's looking for community and want to get plugged in with other whiskey enthusiasts that are positive, no trolls, great people, helping each other, swapping samples, and just having a great time with this hobby, you should absolutely check out Patreon and get plugged into our Discord through that. But yeah, that's all down there. But yeah, I would just keep buying single barrels. And now that we're picking our own, we just buy our own. And I focus in on a few key allocated bottles every year. To me, that's George T. Stagg. And I would love to at least try, if not get a bottle of King of Kentucky every year if I can. That's almost impossible to do, given my budget and our, where we're at. But yeah, George T. Stagg, I can stretch for that. And trying stuff like Master's Keep, trying stuff like Russell's 15, which we love. I would splurge on one of those. A few key products that we get to try because of the community and because of the sharing that happens. That's where I would splurge. But other than that, I would just buy single barrels. So that's where we're at. 4 years in. Hopefully it was informative and kind of a fun conversation for you. We would love to hear how you have evolved, your palate preferences and proclivities have evolved over time. Leave that down in the comments below. And other people can go down there and read and maybe gain some insight. Something you say, something you share might help somebody else kind of know something about themselves that they weren't aware of beforehand. So that's always pretty cool. And I think with that, we're out of here.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be good to each other. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.